If you're losing sales, it's not because of the carriers that you have, and it's not because of the price that you have, although that does play a small factor. Now, there's two parts to look at this. This is looking from the agency view, and this is looking from the salesperson view. In most cases, if you're the salesperson, the only thing you need to focus is on how to try to fix this piece, and this is going to answer that. When you're looking at the agency view, we're going to look more at the marketing piece. So let's start with the agent view first and explain that it's not necessarily the leads that you're getting, it's the way that you're handling them. I've never been the best salesperson, although technically I'm the top 5 out of 300 at my last position, but I guess I'm a high converter. Main focus wasn't necessarily the quote, and part of it was a long string of my history teaching me to be better at sales, but it's more about communication than it is necessarily the selling part. When you think about it, what are the parts to a sales process? In insurance, we've got what I call 3 different hats. We have our underwriting hat. Do we want this risk? Is it worth our time? Is this someone that we should probably let go somewhere else, or should we work with them? Then we have our salesman hat is, let me just get this done. Let's get this process. Give me your payment. Let's get this moving. How do I connect with you? How do I relate to somebody so that they know me, like me, and trust me within a matter of minutes so that they'll purchase from me? In benefit to them, hopefully, not just to scam them. But then we also have our service hat, which is how do I take care of the person on the back end? So how do I juggle all of these pieces that make me successful in this industry? That mindset of having those 3 different terms is going to allow you to break up who you are at the moment. When you're doing quotes, you're doing more of the underwriting. What I find that most agents do is they get really involved and they think that every customer wants to talk to them. If you ever watch The Wolf of Wall Street, they have that famous sell me this pen, and it wasn't about selling the pen, it was about finding the interest level. If you don't have a need or a market for a pen, why would I sell you a pen? I need to move on to the next person. And that's one of the things that made me very successful, was to quickly realize when people were interested and when they weren't interested. So when I had their attention and they really got it, they wanted it, and they needed it, those are our 3 rules, then I was able to work with them and find a way to build rapport with them so that they'd want to purchase from me. It wasn't a matter of whether they wanted to purchase, it's who they wanted to purchase from. If I met all the needs that they had, and I met their pain points, and I was within a range of pricing, even within a $50 to $100 more payment than what they have now, you're going to find that people will switch to you because of having the struggles of finding the right type of agent. So let's break this down. People are purchasing because they want clarity. They want ease of understanding. And they really, most of the time, just want you to know everything that they want without them having to tell you. It has gotten to where most of these agents are becoming more of a transaction-based, which technically could build you income, but it doesn't build longevity. You don't get a customer for 8 years, 5 years, even 4 years. They usually stay for a year, and then they shop the next year, and then they go to someone else, and then they might come back a year later. All those things are bouncing between companies, and you're just getting profit, losing it, getting it, losing it. And it's not really the way to run an agency or even be an agent, because when you're looking at your boss and you're explaining, hey, here's where I am, and they look at your numbers and you're losing customers just as quick as you're gaining them, then it quickly shows that it's always sold based on price. And that's not the way an agency should be ran as far as that goes. If you're at a commission job, and there you go, you can do that all day long, because that's really what that was built for. If no one's training you differently, if you want to grow outside of that, this is what we're talking about. Number 1, what really matters to the customer. So when we're talking about this, we actually talked about this morning in our Monday meeting, was that we had a customer that had switched to another company. They went to one of the companies that has road service built in. And one of the things that we talked about was, why was that important to them? Because they probably lowered all of their coverages. They probably removed some of the coverage that we had built out for them when we had originally talked. But if you're not constantly having some sort of conversation with them, then it might be about price later on. So when it was about having the right coverage and the right fit, now it was about, how can I get this thing cheap? And unfortunately, there's a lot of agents that get people to focus on that. Once you get the customer, it's how do you retain them? And part of that is explaining to them the reasons why they keep the policy at the level they have. Most people don't understand that insurance, you get what you pay for. And when you don't have the right coverage and you have a claim, that's when they find out that they wish they would have kept your policy or bought the coverages correctly. Now, salesman hat turns on, and I'm thinking, okay, if that was the case, how do I flip the script? If somebody's getting a membership or a road service and that was what was important to them, why can't I do that? But also explain to them that they don't have to have a membership. They can just have the insurance without being tied down. They don't have to have a policy that requires you to have a membership. Keep in mind that membership, if it cancels, likely will non-renew your insurance. So now you're at risk. If you're forgetful, if those things happen, on top of it, if you use the membership X amount of times, you start losing the benefits. So there's reasons you shouldn't go to that, and that's your salesman piece. You have to understand the competitors that you're working with on top of understanding what customers' actual needs are and what's important to them. Besides price, what is important to you, you should be asking on every single phone call. Here's the trick. Most people don't understand the pricing, and that's where you come in as an agent. When you understand certain coverages give certain benefits, you can add things that give a benefit to some of the customers when you ask them, is this important to you? And they say, yes, but I don't want to pay a ton. If I add this, that, and the other, and I can still get your price within a manageable amount, is that something you would be interested in? Absolutely. So once we get those pieces put together, and I've built some pieces based around what that customer is looking for, you're going to find if you're competitive, you're almost always going to get that premium. Now, here's where a lot of sales agents don't have that salesman hat, where they don't break it into options. When you're talking to someone, I always tell them about how I would do it. This is the coverages I carry. And I'll most of the time just quote them what I have. Honestly, I'd say 80% of the time that's what I end up selling. And then I give them options that fit what they're looking for a little bit better. I'd like to start the call off with, let's give you the perfect scenario. If you could build a package, regardless of how much it cost, would this be a good fit for you? Do you want the road service? Do you want the rental car? Do you want the accident forgiveness? Do you want the cash back? Do you want the unlimited towing? Do you want all of those pieces that these insurance companies offer versus let me just get you what you're looking for, which most customers are only taught cheap, and that's what they're going to default. Now, here's what I would carry. Keep in mind, these are the coverages that we created. This is perfect scenario. It's X amount. That's too high. Great. Here's the ones that you were looking for. Here's another option. We can take this off. We can take this off. And we really work backwards on that sale piece of it to get connected with that customer to fit what their needs are. You'll find that a lot of times you're actually competitive because some people have been overpaying for too long, and then they realize that they can get better coverage for a lower premium, but you're not just slashing everything just to get them the cheapest deal. So I started the video off by saying you have to have an emotional detachment, because I think it's the 5th most hated piece in the world is having insurance, because some states and most states require certain scenarios to have insurance. If you have a home and you have a loan, the loan requires you to have insurance. If you have a car and you want to drive it, just about every state is going to require you to have insurance. So those are things that some people can't afford or don't have budgeted, that they feel that they're overpaying, especially if they've never used it. They feel like, oh, I'll never have that issue. They're not really seeing the value of it. Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they need it? Those are the pieces that I personally focus on, and they don't get it. So that may not be the type of person that I need to work with. That teaches you that when you're talking to certain customers, when you're starting that conversation, you're trying to get a feel for, are we a connection for each other? Let me gather some information. What's the year, make, and model of your car? Oh my gosh, I love that car. It's a great car. My cousin has that car. Try to find some way to relate to them, and you'll find that people open up very quickly. You're going to find that some people open up and tell you that they think insurance is a scam. Probably not the customer I want to work with, at least not in my agency. Other people, they're great. 1-800 whatever insurance agency is going to be a good fit for them. But when you get so emotionally tied to this, you're going to find that you're going to get at least 10 no's to 1 yes. Or if you're really good, like my conversion when I was doing it, I would get 7 no's to a yes. But I would find very quickly that some of those no's came within a minute. I was a minute into the call and realized that this isn't going to be a good fit, or I'm not a good fit for them because my personality isn't going to mix well. That type of person that's just grumpy, they sound like they got out of bed, they're just yes, no answers. Sure, give them the quote if you want to try to sell them something, but at the end of the day, are they going to be that longevity customer? Maybe not. It's up to you whether you want to sell that one, but in general, is that worth your time or worth their time to find someone that doesn't need your help? Why even go with you if that's not the case? So that's your superpower. I did actually write down a few things that you should think of that are going to show you high interest levels. So if they answer very clearly, they quickly understand what coverages or what type of scenarios that they're concerned about, that's going to show high interest because they're actually actively thinking of that. If they repeat key phrases and they're constantly saying, yeah, I didn't have the road service at that time, or I didn't have this, and then they've mentioned it multiple times, you need to actively listen for somebody that is explaining that to you. They're reaching out, telling you that there is a high interest level on getting that pain point fixed. They ask about coverages. They're not so much asking about price. What does this coverage do for me? What does that coverage do for me? That person is very interested and very intent on understanding that they're covered correctly, so that when you are quoting that, they quickly find someone that can teach them. And when they learn that, they're going to have a higher value for you as their insurance agent. That way they're going to come to you. Now, there is an opposite to that where they only want the data, but at the end of the day, those are people you have to just have. You're just going to do it sometimes and work with them, and they're going to have a million questions. I don't necessarily always just sell that person, but in general, I try to at least leave them with a positive outlook no matter which way we go. You'll quickly understand the tone of their voice and how interested they are. It's always going to start negative because you're like the fifth phone call. You may be the fifth phone call or the seventh insurance agent that they've talked to. Their friend already referred them to someone, and it might just not be a fit depending if you're working leads or if you're getting a referral. They might already be annoyed and they might already be frustrated with the industry in general because 5 people try to pitch them minimums, all those things. So they don't necessarily have the trust in the insurance agent because at this point, they might be a dime a dozen in their area. If that's the case, you've got to build that rapport, get them to open up so that you can have those conversations. You're not going to find out if they get it, want it, or need it, if you don't start asking questions. Now, on the opposite, there's 4 things they're going to teach you that they're not interested. Number 1, they're giving short answers. That's all they want. They're literally just looking for data and a price. You want to do it, get through the phone call quick. Here's your price. What do you think? Great, let's move forward. And then maybe if they purchase, you'll build rapport over time as you talk with them every renewal, see if their life has changed, anything's happened, any new pets, any new family, all those things that could create that relationship in a long-term space that could convert them overall down the road. The second is if they're constantly in a distracting tone. So they're talking to someone else in the background, they're constantly moving, they're just not thinking about it, they don't get it. They might want it and they might need it, but they don't get it. So they're not going to pay attention to what you want. Again, they're trying to just get a price. They understand that some people are trying to build rapport, but at the end of the day, there's not another way to go that route to where you're going to build the relationship. Number 3, arguing about price before they understand it. And this actually happens more often than you would think when we talk about giving them what my perfect scenario is. They hear that price and they're like, no, I don't want it. I'm done. Blah, 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 blah. They never even get to that second piece. You have to really build in those scenarios if you're going to go off of what they should carry to what they want to carry and try to meet in the middle. You're going to understand that is going to be a little bit of a gripe at the end, but that's part of the objection handling. You're the salesperson. Your job is to help them understand and find a happy medium that fits what both they are looking for and what they should be carrying. Number 4 is there's no emotional commitment. They just aren't involved. They're not getting it, and they're just not wanting to build any rapport. They're just trying to get the information. It's not necessarily short answers, but they might just go off on tangents. They might talk about this, that, and the other, and that's because they just aren't thinking of it. And if that's not the mindset that they're in or the frame that they're trying to build, it's your job to take these talking paths and try to keep it on a straight line. If that's the case and you are able to get that and you are able to get them to understand and you can show value, then most likely you're going to get that customer. And because you're showing a reason for them to work with you in the future, they're going to want to talk to you again. So when the renewal comes or when they have questions or when they're ready to change the car, they know that you're going to be the agent that's going to take care of them. That's how I quickly learned how most agents fail. Now, the bigger, stronger piece that I had to learn was how to handle the rejection, how to handle objections, and essentially how to grow as an agent in that space. This video is going to go a lot further in depth on how to handle the rejection or objection and build your book of business quicker. I'm Mark W. Flockhart. I'll see you soon.